This AL East Divisional Betting Preview edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Rhythm is giving away a $250 future and throwing a March Madness party. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party for details. Plus, compete against SGPN this March for a chance to win $75,000 in SGPN Survivor. Enter at splashsports.com/SGPN. And SGPN is giving away $2,000 in our free March Madness bracket competition. Sign up today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/bracket. Welcome, everybody, to the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. My name is Malcolm Bamford, coming to you from Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast of England. I was going to give you the date, but I'm not even close. Tuesday, the 11th. Really? Tuesday, March the 11th. And we are here to continue our divisional betting previews. This is number 3 of 6, and we're going to tackle the AL East today. Joining me, already helping me out with the hand signals, is Mr. Scott Reichel. Scott, thanks for that. How you doing?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Can't complain. I know that we had to delay the show because of some Champions League action, mostly one match that went to extra time. Fun matchup. I know you're happy with the outcome because you're not exactly the biggest Liverpool fan on the planet, so definitely a nice win for PSG. Had some actual action for the actual matches. It's in a parlay. Carries over to tomorrow, so I survived. I had 2 matches that are down. Had Inter to score in both halves, and I had the Barcelona money line with the over 2.5. So can't complain. We move on to the Brugge match against Villa tomorrow. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it was exciting tonight. I was delighted. Always happy when Liverpool get beat. We play them in the cup final on Sunday, and I'm expecting terrible things to happen. So I'll take my little victories when I get them. I went 2-2 tonight on the Champions League, which is okay. A little bit of profit. There was some plus money stuff in there as well. Anyone who has planned their day around just being on time for the show, that's entirely on me, because I had the kids watching, so it felt harsh turfing them out to go to bed when the football was still on. So you can have that one on me. This division tonight, the AL East, we're going to look at, Scott. Firstly, it's a really fun division to bet on, because you could throw a blanket over all 5 contenders here. The covered between 5 and 8 games between the best projected record and the worst projected record, depending on what books and what projections you look at. It's not a big spread. And also, it's really good timing, actually, that we do this division now, because there's been some big old injury news just in the last 24 hours, really, that's actually affected the lines on this division as well. Lots to get into. Scott, have you a preference in which order we go? Do you want to take your Yankees on first, last, in the middle? What do you fancy?
I'm trying to remember what we did in previous divisions. I think we did the worst team first, or in other words, the lowest win total first, and we just went upwards.
Okay. So we'll start at the bottom and work our way to the top, which means we lead off here with the Tampa Bay Rays, who are 60-1. No, actually, it's a Toronto Blue Jays, I think. I mean, there's not much in it.
It's fine. I could rearrange it. It's fine. It's all good. I'll rearrange it.
Yeah. So we'll go as you say. We'll do the Blue Jays, who are 45-1 to win the World Series, 11-1 for this division, plus 250 to make the playoffs, and they have a win total at 78.5. The Blue Jays finished last season with 74 wins. There were 6 games back in last place, so 6 games beyond the fourth place team. They did finish 2-8 the last 10 games of the season, which kind of skews it slightly. I don't think they were clearly 6 games worse than everyone else in this division. They just haven't really done much. I don't mind them, and I'll tell you why I don't mind them in a little while. The only loss really was Jordan Romano, their closer out of the pen, but have swapped in Jeff Hoffman from Philly, which is like for like, really. That doesn't move the needle one way or the other. They didn't score enough runs last year, I think, was the gist of what Toronto were all about. They've added a couple of crucial pieces to try and affect that. Anthony Santander from Baltimore was the big bat. They really needed a big bat at the top of that lineup, a power hitter. And Anthony Santander is that. He's reliable. He's a veteran now. He's been reliable for 4 or 5 years. I like that. And the other big signing really in the lineup was Andres Jimenez, a top quality defender, but also he's been an above league average bat. His defense will help Vladdy out as well, I think, as well. Vladdy blows a little bit hot and cold over there, but with Jimenez in the middle infield, I think that's going to help him out. I like Will Wagner. Is a name, a rookie, a lefty infielder. He's an interesting player. But the strength, Scott, is in the rotation. It's either experienced or old, depending on your viewpoint here. I'll sort of go with the experienced route. I think they're going to be all right. And as a group, I think they'll sort of win together or lose together. It's Kevin Gausman, it's Jose Barrios, Chris Bassett, Max Scherzer are the top 4. The only, I was going to say young gun in there is Bowden Francis, and he's 28. He's not particularly young, but I do like him. You might remember Bowden Francis at the back end of last year had a couple of near no-nos the season. You've got Yariel Rodriguez, who can provide a little bit of depth. He showed some stuff last year. And there's a couple of names not to forget as well. If you remember, Ricky Tiedemann was kind of the talking horse last year. Never really happened for him. Injuries, etc. And of course, Alek Manoah. Alek Manoah. Is this year going to be that Alek Manoah year? August, September, if we're seeing Alek Manoah pitching well in this rotation, I won't be hugely surprised. I think they'll go okay, Scott. Like I say, I think the rotation will succeed or fail together. They can take each other along. That total is 78.5. I'm happy to go on. I'm happy to take the over. I'll go over. But the one bet I like here, because it's so near that mark of 78.5, the Toronto Blue Jays to record 80 wins is plus 115, and that's going to be my standout play. I have got one little player prop we can get to later on at the end of the show as well. But Toronto Blue Jays for me to record 80 wins at plus 115, Scott.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you on this one. I feel like Toronto's not going to go well over, but I can see them finishing around like 82 and 80 if I had to go for an actual like finishing record. Toronto last year was, I'd say, somewhat healthy. Vlad played a bunch of games. Springer ended up missing 17, and you ended up seeing a big absence with Bichette, who missed half the season. So you're hoping Bichette can play because he's always going to be pushing the American League lead in hits. So we'll see what happens. I think a big reason why the offense struggled because Bichette got on base all the time, and he wasn't available for half the season. So you got Santander to help out a bit with the actual power and the actual RBIs. The rotation, I think, is fine for the most part. The issue you run into is the division and how tough you think the division is going to be. We're going to mention a couple teams in a little while that it might be lower on than most people, but I think Toronto's not that bad. Now, do I think that their manager is any good? Not really. I do think that they are, once again, a pretty interesting team to not be a playoff contender, but good enough to not be in the basement of this division. I agree with you. I think 78.5 sounds like a pretty reasonable number, but slightly low. I'll go with them being like 80 to 82 wins. I'll go with the over on Toronto.
Okay, so a little consensus there between me and Scott to lead us off. John Colourface joined us in the chat. John is a regular watcher over on the Premier League Gambling Podcast. If you get a chance to join John and come and watch me and Baz have some terrible banter and some equally poor picks, but we have a lovely time doing it. So the Premier League Gambling Podcast is the place to be.
Question, by the way,
Scott joined us in the show last night, actually.
I was going to say,
There was
quick
all sorts
question.
of things going on: horse racing, tennis, football. All the picks were going on.
Yeah, quick question
in
I have for you, by the way. When you say equally terrible, is that because you stole Baz's picks or because he stole yours?
Baz stole mine last night.
Okay.
I think.
All right.
I'm very much the.
I just remember
leader.
you had consensus on like every game from what I was listening
We
to.
did, yeah.
Basically.
So yeah, we both finished 2-2 tonight. I think we had consensus on 6 out of 8, which very rarely happens because we never check in with each other before. We just go for it. So, yeah. What do they say? Fools seldom differ, or something like that. SGPN here are giving away $2,000 in our free March Madness bracket competition. Now you need to go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/bracket and sign up today. You can compete against all the show hosts, all the network people this March in our 75k Survivor, which is winner take all. Enter at splashsports.com/SGPN. SGPN has partnered up with Edge Boost, the premier Visa debit card for bettors. An Edge Boost card allows you to avoid the hassle of getting your card denied at all your favourite gambling spots. You can earn up to $750 per month in cashback rewards. It's FDIC insured. There's no credit checks. It is completely free. Sign up today using the promo code SGPN. That's edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And finally, mybookie.ag, helping us out here, as always, your place to bet every sport, loads of locations, lightning fast payouts using crypto. Heads to mybookie.ag with the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Next up is the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays are 60-1 to land the World Series, 8-1 for this division, plus 190 to make the playoffs. They have a total of 81.5 games. Scott, how are you viewing the Rays this time around?
So I am going to go with Toronto over, so I'm going to go with Tampa under on this one. I think the Rays, this line feels very reputation-based for me, where they find ways to win with basically nothing, kind of like MacGyver. I don't think the roster is that good. Like, just looking at the actual team, the rotation's fine. I don't know how many innings McClanahan's going to pitch. He's off Tommy John. He probably will get limited or shut down at the end of the year. I mean, Pepe, it's fine. Baz is okay. Bradley was very up and down last year, and Littell's okay. The bullpen's usually a strength, but it's usually a lot of, I'd say the sum is better than the individual parts kind of thing, where they just throw out random names, they turn out to be good, you never heard of them. But you have Fairbanks as the reliever, as the closer, which should work out. The lineup is, there. It's what Tampa's lineup is every year. You're underwhelmed, and they'll find a way to score 4 runs, and they'll win games 4-3. It's kind of how they go. But the main difference with this team, they're not on the Trop anymore. So you got to factor that in because they're going to be playing outdoors now in Steinbrenner Field, which is pretty funny. But anyway, I think I'm going to go under with Tampa. It's a weird spot. Maybe it's kind of like Toronto playing in the COVID season in Florida, where you have a home field, which isn't actually your home field, and they're kind of just in the middle of nowhere. That's what I feel with this Tampa team. The roster, I don't think is that great. They usually sell the deadline because they're a pretty cheaply run organization. So I don't see them buying pieces at the deadline if they're out of it. I'll go under. I think they'll finish somewhere in the mid-70s.
Yeah, you mentioned the ballpark, Scott, and I think that is quite important. Obviously, the roof blew off the Trop back in last October. They are playing in the Yankees spring training facility. Really nice. They reckon it's like a top 5 clubhouse, not just sort of minor league as well. It'll be like top 5 major league clubhouse. So the Rays will be quite comfortable there. They should get some more power numbers from the lefties because you've got Lau and Lowe both going to the mimicked short porch over there as well. And the other thing it's just worth mentioning here is that they've messed around with the schedule a little bit, just because they're playing outdoors in Florida in the summer. So it's going to be hot and it's going to be wet. So they've actually moved sort of quite a lot of home games to early in the season. They play quite a lot of home games in April and May. Where the angle is betting-wise there, I haven't quite worked it out. But I'll give you the information. You can do that yourselves, everyone. And they've also, you mentioned the bullpen, Scott. They've put together this kind of bullpen. They're expecting rain delays. Now, again, if there's a team that can do this, it's Tampa. Like their front office, they set them this challenge. They'll have absolutely relished it. That they've been able to put a few extra little bits and bobs type of relief guys. So getting away from that, the strength is absolutely the rotation. You said they're actually projected the lowest runs against per game in the division. Back from injury, McClanahan, Baz, Rasmussen. I've got really high hopes for Rasmussen. I hope he can have a good year. Zach Littell, who's been pretty solid. And Tash Bradley, who's got really good stuff, like you said, slightly inconsistent. They didn't do much in the lineup, you're right. It is just there. They added Ha-Seong Kim, who I like from the Padres, but he's currently injured. I'm going to take the over. Just because there's a couple of teams we're going to get to that I'm a little bit lower on. So that line at 81.5. And I think there could be some kind of home advantage. Roberto Clemente joined us in the chat. He's talking about the pre-season stuff. But that in-season angle, I think, if the Rays can get ahead, I think they can get maybe ahead of the projections by using this home advantage early. So you might be able to hedge out. I know we don't normally go for hedging on this network, but there's definitely an angle in, so it's definitely worth looking at the Rays. But yeah, over 81.5, Scott, would be my angle on that one.
Do you want to make a case for a playoff push, or you're just going with the win total?
No, just a win total. It's competitive. I can see them getting to 83 or 84. I don't think it's enough. 85, 86 might make it. It's possible. I wouldn't rule it out. If you wanted to bet it, I wouldn't put you off it. But yeah, there's other things I like more, Scott. There's other things I'll be putting my money on rather than that. Third up, in the middle of the pack here, are the Boston Red Sox, who are trading at 25-1 to win it all. 3-1 to win the division, -130 to make the playoffs, and the total sits here at 86.5. I've learned more things about the Red Sox, Scott, in the offseason. You know, I'm always quite open and honest that I really don't have any history of baseball before I started watching it. I watched The Comeback on Netflix. Have you watched that? Well, I imagine you lived it first.
I mean, I was about 7 years old, but I lived it, so yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah. Have you watched the Netflix show?
I did not, but there was a 30 for 30 that was made about it, so I watched that instead.
Okay. I enjoyed watching like Dave Roberts, because I know Dave Roberts, who he is. He's the Dodgers manager.
Yeah, he's still second base.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, and Aaron Boone had hit that walk-off home run the year before, 2 years before, something like that. And now I know who he is, and all that sort of thing. And obviously Terry Francona is a younger man making his way as a manager. That kind of thing. So, yeah, I enjoyed all of that. Boston last year played 500 baseball, 81 in 81. It was the home record that let them down a little bit. There were 5 games under 500 at home. So if they can adjust there, then there's gains to be made. And they really struggled against the better teams. They had a very poor record against teams who were over 500, 37 and 56, 19 games. So yeah, they were quite good at bullying the bad teams, but that was about it. I really like the position they're in. They are in win now mode, I think, definitely. They tried and failed to get Soto. I think they tried quite legitimately. But they did add Alex Bregman, who is going to play second base, we believe. Devers has stamped his feet and refused to give up his position. Alex Bregman, this is the stat of the show, Scott. Are you ready for this? You'll be impressed with this. Okay. Of any player with over 75 plate appearances at Fenway Park, Alex Bregman has the highest OPS in MLB. You like that? Yeah?
Yeah, I do like that.
Much. You can have that one on me. Rotation-wise, Garrett Crochet was obviously the standout. He was outstanding last year for the White Sox. The second half, he sort of phoned it in a little bit because, oddly, they didn't trade him at the deadline. He was going 4 innings, but he's got really good stuff. Undoubted SP1 there. In Walker Buehler, they picked up as well. He finished the season well. Boston liked what they saw in the playoffs from Buehler. His mechanics were all right in a short sample, so they went for him. The lineup, Devers, Bregman, Duran, is a great top three. I like Tristan Casas. Travis Story's a little bit of a fly in the ointment. His defence will be outstanding. I've no issues there. He's only played 163 games in 3 years, Trevor Story. Whether the bat's there or not remains to be seen. Definite upside in there. Like I say, Crochet and Bueller complemented by... They had all these pitchers that were the same last year. We never knew... I never knew the difference between Tanner Howe, Cutter Crawford and Garrett Whitlock. It was just a name. It was the same bloke every day, just with a different name. Lucas Giolito, he's looked really good in spring, touching 95 on the gun.
Well, he got injured, right? Didn't he get injured today?
Today?
I thought he got injured.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I'll be watching the football. That's be sod's law.
Yeah, Giolito is getting an MRI on his hamstring.
Oh, well.
So it shouldn't be that serious, but he got injured today.
Quite good in spring before that, Scott. My guy, Brian Bello, who I am an absolute sucker for, he's injured, but not desperately. He'll be back pretty soon. And they've got a little bit of depth as well. Quinn Priester is a name we know. Patrick Sandoval, we should see maybe in the last couple of months. Not before then. The bullpen, Liam Hendricks is the closer, but they've got quite a bit of players who can get them there as well. Aroldis Chapman, Justin Slayton, got really nasty stuff. I like him. Justin Wilson, they picked up in the offseason. All really good options. They've got one of the best farms in the game. Vaughn Grissom, question mark. Can they get anything out of him? Or possibly use him as a trade piece later in the year. But I like Marcelo Mayer, Roman Anthony, big name as well, and Christian Campbell. So there's more positives than negatives for me all over the place here for Boston. I really like the over 86.5. I would bet them to win the division. It's 3-1. They're my idea of the division winner. To make the playoffs, -130. Love that too, obviously. But also to win 90 games, +175. Like I say, the line is at 86.5. I can see them getting to 90, and I like that price as well of +175, Scott. Do you share my optimism on the Boston Red Sox?
Yeah, I do. Not about you watching the 04 series replay, but I'm a fan of the team this season. I feel like Boston's actual roster is pretty good. I mean, the rotation should be fine with Crochet. You're looking at Bueller, who was very good in the playoff run. Giolito, MRI, we'll see what happens, but he's been underwhelming lately. I'm sure the Angels don't want to talk about it, so we'll see how he does in Boston. But I do think the rotation is fine for the most part. The issue last year was the bullpen. The team was very good in the first half of the year, fell apart in the second half, could not hold the lead to save their lives. You got Hendricks now, who is fresh off of a really rough spring training. He was really bad in the spring, so we'll see what happens. But they got also Aroldis Chapman, who has been kind of up and down lately. He was pretty decent on Pittsburgh, though. We'll see how he does in Fenway. But I do like the overall lineup. I do like the actual rotation. And I do think the team has a lot of, I'd say, solid blend between veterans and young players. And I do like the fact that the team stole a bunch of bases. Offensively, they were pretty good. I like the addition of Bregman. They have a good farm system, as you said before. I like the overall roster more than a Yankee fan should, but I think that they have a pretty good team. So I'll go with the Red Sox over as well at 86.5. I agree with you about the division. I think they should make the playoffs as well at -130. But I do think at the end of the day, the main, I'd say, focal point for this team will be the bullpen. The offense was very good last year anyway. It should remain good. And I do think even though they lost O'Neill, I do think the rest of their lineup's solid enough. But the bullpen was the main question mark. It seems like they tried to address it. We'll see if Chapman and Hendricks are both potentially solve those issues. But at least they had some, I'd say, actual realistic, I'd say, views of the roster on what they needed to do to fix it. And I like the vision they had this offseason. So I'll go with the over on Boston.
Yeah, you're right about, like I said, they did try. They did get genuinely into win now mode, I think. I think it was a genuine attempt to sign Soto when that proved beyond them. Yeah, I like what they've done. So Bregman might just be there for 1 year. But that might be all it takes. Next up, second best here in this AL East division are the Baltimore Orioles, who are 14-1 for World Series glory, +260 to win the division, -200 to win the playoffs. So win total, Scott, of 88.5.
I like the over on Baltimore. And this team's actually pretty good. on paper. Now, the rotation should be a bit of a question mark. You have Eflin, you have Rodriguez, who's injured, you have Morton, you have Kramer. Kramer wasn't really that good last year. And they got Sagano. So we'll see how Sagano does in the MLB. But so far, he's a pretty, I'd say, highly viewed option, at least based on what the bidding was in the offseason. So we'll see how he does in Baltimore. I like the bullpen. You're looking at Batista, who should be back, which is definitely big for a closer role. You're looking at a couple of other options. Perez was pretty good in some spots. Soto can be a question mark. Cano's okay, but I think the bullpen's fine. They got Seranthony Dominguez as well. The lineup, though, is what I think is a pretty strong suit. They move the fences in left field, so there should be a bit more power to the left, or I should say from righties. You're looking at them signing O'Neill. I like their lineup in general. Jackson Holliday was really bad when he was first called up, and he was really, I think it was fun to watch when he got called up again later in the year. But I like their lineup. I like Mountcastle. Rushman fell off a cliff last year. I'm hoping he bounces back. They got Gary Sanchez to destroy lefties if they need to. Gunnar Henderson, we know, is an MVP candidate every year, basically, at this point. And I like Mullins as well. I like their overall roster. The question is, do I think their manager is any good? No, I don't think that Hyde's a good manager. But Baltimore seems to make it to the playoffs, and they immediately fall apart in the first round every year. But I like their roster from top to bottom. I think that they're talented. Their pitching, I think, is pretty good, or at least better than people might think. And if Batista is healthy, that's a really good closer that you can just throw back in there who missed all of last year. So I like the over on Baltimore. I think this team's good. I think they should win the division. I think 260 is a very big price to win the division. So I like that as my main choice for Baltimore, but I see them finishing mid-90s. I think this team on paper is actually very solid. I'm assuming you disagree.
One of the lovely things I like about the baseball season and starting off again is seeing all the people that you haven't seen in the chat for 6 months. It feels like coming back from school holidays and seeing all the faces that you spent all year with last year. Stop Geo Engineering. Geo's back. Welcome along, Geo. Scott, I have the completely opposite view.
I know you do, because as soon as I said over, you gave me a look like you just stared at me like, is he out of his mind? Yeah, so make your case.
It's all right. Just proves that we're not stealing each other's picks. Yeah, 91 wins last year. You were right, swept 2-0 by KC. They were really good in the division, 32-20. I don't see that happening again because there's teams in this division that I do like. For me, with Baltimore, it just feels like I feel like they've missed an opportunity to capitalize on this golden age of prospect young players that they had. With the Blue Jays did it a couple of years ago, and even going back to when we started the show, the White Sox felt like they were in this position, and obviously they completely and utterly shit the bed. They lost Corbin Burns, they lost Anthony Santander, added, don't mind Tyler O'Neill, but Gary Sanchez, Roman Laureano, not moving the needle too much. They've got a great one too at the top. Henderson and Rutschman I like. Mullins, Westberg, Kjærstad, Colton Cowser are all okay. Jackson Holiday will have to fulfill that promise. But it's a rotation that completely lets this down for me. Eflin's all right. But a 41-year-old Charlie Morton as your SB2, Kramer at number 3, question marks over Sugano. I can't write Sugano off because we haven't seen him. And then that lefty, Cade Povich, who came from Arizona, possibly. He could be all right. But overall, it's the weakest rotation in this division, I think. Grayson Rodriguez could come in, but he's currently not healthy. They're missing Kyle Bradish. There's not too much depth there. I do like the pen, or I like Felix Bautista. It's really easy to root for. He's fun. He's great to watch. I think the reputation has got this price too short. It's under 88.5 for me. And I'm going to go with the miss the playoffs as well at plus 155. So yeah, we're absolutely at opposite ends of this particular seesaw, Scott. So not much help to anybody there. Pay your money and take your choice. But yeah, under 88.5 and miss the playoffs at plus 155. We've got one team left to cover. I'll do that after I've told you first about Rhythm. Rhythm are throwing an epic March Madness party, and everybody's invited, all Rhythm users. It's Wednesday, March the 19th at the Stadium Swim at Circa Las Vegas. Well and truly on my bucket list, that place. Free drinks, Plus, you get to hang out with the guys from SGPN. Rhythm is giving away a $250 March Madness future for one random lucky Rhythm user. Even if you can't make the party, you can still win with your future bet. Rhythm's March Madness success last year was really good, 39% higher than ESPN brackets. So you've got a free party, a chance at a $250 future. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party for details. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party. And finally, Underdog Pick'em. Here, NBA, NHL, college basketball, whatever your sport, everything is available. Underdog is offering a Luka Doncic discount for every Lakers game for the rest of the regular season. You can bet on the combine if you're that way inclined. Our code is MLB SGPN. That will get you a special pick and a first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code MLB SGPN. Final team then, last but not least, Scott, are your very own New York Yankees, favourites to win this division. 8-1 for the World Series, second favourites, I think, after obviously the Dodgers. Plus 140 for the division, minus 250 to make the playoffs. A win total of 89.5, just one more than the Baltimore Orioles. I'll let you take the reins, Scott. You know more about this than me. How are you feeling about your New York Yankees? I'm guessing that you just tipped up Baltimore, that you're not hugely keen on them so far.
Yeah, I'm not. I feel like the offseason in general was fine until everyone got hurt. And now you got problems because Cole's out for basically the entire season at this point. I think Tommy John is going to be, I'd say, confirmed at some point over the next couple of days. Heel is out for a while. I don't know when he's going to throw again. LeMahieu got injured again. What else is new? And you're looking at the team right now. Stan, I don't know when he's going to play. So not really a great offseason when you factor in all the people missing. Now, they made some moves. They got Fried, which should help out. I mean, you're looking at Goldschmidt playing first base now instead of Rizzo. You got Devin Williams as a solid closer option as well. I just feel like this team, do I really trust Carlos Rodon as a number 2 starter in the league? I do not. Clark Schmidt got injured midway through last year. I think he's fine. Stroman, I don't know what the story is with Stroman. So I don't know how many actual starters the Yankees have at this point. You have Fried, who's fine. Rodon's up and down. Schmidt, I think, was good for the most part last year. Stroman never pitched in the playoffs because they couldn't stand him. And I don't know what his story is now with the Yankees. So you have basically 2 starters, 2.5 with this team. I like your bullpen, at least with Weaver and with Williams. Your lineup should be okay. Do I think it's great? I mean, you got Bellinger, of course, as well. You lost Soto, which is, of course, a downgrade, but it's not bad for a plan B. I don't really think this team's that great. I think the team's fine. You can argue that they're going to buy the deadline again because it's all Cashman does, trying to fix, I'd say, serious wounds with, I'd say, duct tape and to hope everything sticks. But do I think they're going to be walking into 90 wins? No. I see a pretty flawed roster. I get the argument is they made the World Series last year and they found a way to, get by with some flaws on the roster last year too. But I don't really like this team with all the injuries. So I'll go with the under. You mentioned Baltimore's rotation. This Yankees rotation's rough too. So I'll go under 89.5.
Yeah, but Gio's mentioning that the Yankees might still make a move or two because they might just have to. I mean, yeah, Yankees were okay last year. They were outclassed eventually by the Dodgers in the World Series. The question for me is, have they done anything to take the extra step? Have they moved forward? At this point, I'm not even sure if they stood still, whether or not they've stagnated or just gone a little bit backwards. And especially because there's some improvers, I think, in this division. Lost Soto, obviously a huge blow. Torres, Clay Holmes, lesser light, Rizzo, Carney, John Birdie, but the sort of players that were knitting stuff together slightly. Now, I like Cody Bellinger, lefty power we've talked about in Yankee Stadium, but a 37-year-old Goldie doesn't do much. The bottom of the order looks really flimsy. Looks really, really flimsy. I mean, it's the same old Yankees. We're sitting here with Stanton and LeMahieu on the injured list. I mean, what year is this? That literally could be any year that we've done this show for. We're into year 5 now. And I reckon Stanton and LeMahieu were on the injured list on this date for every single one of those 5 years. Yeah, the rotation, Cole's a huge blow, obviously. I felt sorry for the people I've been drafting with who drafted Cole, only for him to go down about a day later. I mean, I like Fried a lot, but then what, Rodon? You mentioned it, Scott Rodon. Stroman can throw the odd good start. I like Schmidt as a SB4, but that's it. There's not much depth after that at all. They were 26 and 26 in division last year. But I think 3 of the 4 rivals have improved here. I do prefer the under on the total. I mean, 94 was high. The books have got this at 89.5. I've got them round about 86. I probably won't be betting it. There's other stuff I do prefer in the division. I mean, I've got one player prop that I might go to with the Yankees, but that's about it. They just don't blow my skirt up even a little bit, Scott. Talking player props, did you get a chance to dig anything out on any players from this div?
So I did want a bit of a long shot, which I think is pretty appealing. I like Bregman to lead the league in doubles. You mentioned
nice. That's
very random,
obscure,
very obscure, but it was a good. From what I remember, I believe it was a good price. I think it was like 20-1. I think something like that. But you mentioned his numbers in Fenway. We also know that Fenway has that giant, green monster out there in left field. You didn't know that until you watched the documentary on the 2004 series. But point is that Bregman, I think, has a pretty good swing. Of course, he hits for contact a lot. I think it's a good spot for him to potentially lead the league in something. I think he'll do well, and I think that it's a good ballpark for him. So I like Bregman to lead the league in doubles. I think it's a good spot. I want to ask you, though, since you brought up Jackson Holliday before, do you think he'll fulfill a stolen base promise?
I think he'd be generally a lot better. We get this second season syndrome. But I generally think he'll be a lot better. I mean, what do you mean? Are you asking me? Do you think he's going to steal a shit ton of bases, or what? What's the question?
The question was Jackson Holliday. I'm trying to find the exact number that he said, but he had a quote this past offseason.
Oh, right, okay, sorry.
Saying that he was aiming for a certain amount of stolen base. I think it might have been 30. He said he was going to keep running until they told him to stop running. I forgot the exact number that he was aiming for. I guess I'm asking, do you think Holliday's actually going to be good enough to steal a bunch of bases? He seems motivated. That's why I'm asking.
Genuinely be better. I'm just having a look at some of the projections here. Jackson Holliday, he is projected to steal. How many bases do you think he's projected to steal, Scott? I'll turn this round on you.
I'm going to say 25.5.
8.
8. Okay, then I take it back. Never mind. So Holliday, I found out the quote, by the way. Holliday set his goal at 20. That was the number he had for himself. He said, I'm going to try to steal 20 bases.
I don't really think Baltimore are going to run too much either.
I want the over 8, though. Guy's aiming for 20. He has something that he's looking forward to.
There you go. See if you can fetch out. So Cedric Mullins runs a little bit, but he is getting older, but the rest of them don't. You'd think they should be in a young core. So, yeah. Players-wise, I've got a couple here. I didn't want to find one Yankee. I didn't want to leave you out completely. And it's Aaron Judge. Now, I think his home run total of 47, over or under, is right on the money. So it wasn't that. Now, I have already given out Pete Alonso for the most RBIs at 18-1. But Judge's favourite, and he's 8-1. But I think that's a very, very fair price. He's projected to lead the league in ribbies. By a little margin, actually. He's got a gap of 6, I think it is, at the top of some of the stuff I've seen. I think 8-1 for Judge is fair. But I've got one pitcher prop here, and it's going to be to lead the league in strikeouts.
Is it Crochet?
It is not. I'll give you the price, and then you can tell me the player, Scott.
Okay.
Right, try not to laugh. The player, it's 250-1.
It's McClanahan.
So No, it's Bowden Francis.
I thought I had a great guess. I thought McClanahan was a good guess there. Okay, never mind.
It's a great guess. I might have a 5 for him now you've said that. Me and Adam Rosenberg, who, by the way, I will plug the MLB Propcast, is going to start soon with you and Adam. So me and Adam have been all over Bowden Francis. I mentioned when we did our little Blue Jays bit, they had a couple of no-nos. If he can pitch enough innings, I think he'd get up to 170 or something, 180. And his case per 9 is spot on. So 250 to 1. Worth a little flyer on Bowden Francis for most strikeouts. Remember, I had Cole Reagan's last year, 80 to 1, and I think he finished third. So we're miles away. So got a little bit of pedigree in that market. The odds reflect the chances. I think Scott at 250s, but we'll give it a go. Do you want to recap your best bets for us, Scott?
Sure. I do want to ask you though quickly about the Judge thing because we got some time. You said Judge might lead the league in RBIs. Are we sure they're going to pitch to him? Because Soto's not there anymore for protection. That's kind of my concern.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's one way to find out. I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Right.
I think they will. Like I say, the projections have him at 111 ribbies, which, I mean, the rest of that Yankees lineup's horrible.
That's kind of my point. I don't know if 8 to 1 is actually a good deal or not.
Yeah.
And you're also assuming health.
He is. Yeah. I mean, like I say, projected top of that category. But it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't take much for him to fall away because the rest of that Yankee lineup is pretty poor. I mean, I'm just looking who's in behind him. I mean, it's Jordan Alvarez, who I don't necessarily trust. It's Shohei Ohtani. And the only other people projected 3 figures are, Alvarez, Ohtani, Vlad, Fernando Tatis, and Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso 18 to 1. I might just stick with that one. But I just wanted to give you a little Yankees angle. I didn't want to be accused of being totally down on your team, Scott.
I mean, you could be if you are totally down on my team. It's fine. You can be honest about it. It's all good.
Okay, I'm totally down.
Okay, good. Good. I like that we crossed over something. We reached a level of honesty. I appreciate that. All right.
It's only taken 4 years, Scott.
Yeah, something like that. You're asking for my best bet, I think? That was where we were at?
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, my best bet's Boston to make the playoffs. I think this team's solid. I think that you can make an argument that with the AL being... I mean, from what we saw last year with the Yankees, I think the AL's pretty weak. Like, I don't think that this is a great league in general. So I think that you can make an argument that 85 wins maybe might be enough to actually get in to the actual bracket. But Boston right now, their win total is at 86.5. They can, in theory, go under that and still make the playoffs. That wouldn't shock me. Division leaders at 89.5. Like, I think it's realistic for Boston to make a division push, maybe to get a wild card spot. Minus 130, though. We disagreed on some stuff on this podcast, but we like Boston. So give me Boston to make the playoffs at minus 130.
Absolutely agree. Like I said at the top, you could throw a blanket over the win totals of these teams, separated by 5 or 6 wins in various places. I do like the Blue Jays. I do like the Rays to go over, but that stands out. The player you just gave stands out for Boston to make the playoffs at minus 130. Boston to win 90 games, I can't get away from, at plus 175. You're just saying so 85, 86 might win it. But I think Boston are going to be good. So Boston to win 90 games at plus 175. And the Blue Jays to record 80 wins at plus 115 would be a play for me as well. I think the Blue Jays are going to be sneaky decent. That rotation is kind of bomb-proof. It's not maybe spectacular, but every day they're trotting out a starter. You think, yeah, he can go and win today. It doesn't drop off. They haven't got 2 or 3. Just said the Yankees don't have many. Baltimore left scratching my head. The Blue Jays are going to have a decent start on the mound every day. So 80 wins at plus 115 seems legit. Scott, I think we did it. Is there anything else you want to tell the people before we let them go?
Not really. Of course, we have a couple more division previews to do. Of course, we also have some awards coming up over the next few weeks. But yeah, I'll be in Vegas next week with SGPN. So I'll be busy hanging out with the guys.
So jealous.
You can book a flight. It's on you.
I've got a London trip for the Cup final at the weekend, which has put a little hole in my pocket money. I'm taking Bob as well. So the problem when your kids get old, you have to take them places and cost you twice as much.
I cannot relate to what you're talking about, but I can relate from the other side of being the kid, you know. But either way, point is I'll be in Vegas, so that's what I'll be up to next week.
Oh well, I want full and frank disclosure of everything that goes on, Scott. Yeah, myself and I think it's Dylan doing the next preview on Thursday night. Scott will be doing the NBA and the tennis and everything else. I'll be doing the Premier League Thursday night too. So loads of stuff going on in the network. That Vegas trip sounds absolutely brilliant. I'm incredibly jealous. Scott, thank you very much. Look forward to speaking to you next time.
Yeah, same to you.
Thanks everyone who joined us in the chat. Remember to like, subscribe, thumbs up, rate, leave comments as well. It's really helpful for the algorithm. And you'll get the scheduled shows as well. You'll get notifications when we're scheduled to go. So we do appreciate it. We're gaining momentum towards opening day. But until next time, we will see you all down the road. Cheers.